Why are we bringing Chicago back to the front of the congregation? Well, it always comes back down to the money. And it's not something that I wanted to talk about. Somebody told me that Brandon Johnson is a good dude. Somebody told me that Brandon Johnson is a good man. This man right here at the bottom of my screen. What's up, Q? Somebody told me that Brandon Johnson is a phenomenal guy, that he is a family man. His father was possibly a preacher, that he was a second grade teacher. I'm going to be reading those super chats shortly. They told me he's a good guy. They said, Anton, ease up on Brandon Johnson. He ain't the person that's doing wrong. It ain't about Brandon Johnson. It's about what Brandon Johnson represents. He ran for office, didn't he? Didn't he say that he was going to be a public servant? Him and all of his aldermen? This ain't an attack on his family. This is an attack on his ability to do his job effectively. If Brandon Johnson was in corporate America performing the way that he's performing right now, he would be fired yesterday. He would be fired yesterday. Brandon Johnson recently said that he was going to go over to the border like Eric Adams over there in New York and see what the heck was going on so he can get a better understanding of how he was supposed to move in the city of Chicago. Hit a like for the algorithm. Let's rock out, y'all.
Mayor Brandon Johnson today announced he will not be traveling to the southern border at this time, but will send a delegation from Chicago. That group hoping to not only learn more about the migrant crisis, but also warn those coming to Chicago about winter's harsh weather conditions. Our political reporter, Marianne Ahern, is here now and has the very latest. Marianne.
Stefan, there were critics who said that the mayor's trip was just merely a photo opportunity. His team suggests he still may go at some point, but there is still enough on his plate, more than enough on his plate, so he will not be traveling to Texas now.
I am going to the border as soon as possible.
Less than 2 weeks ago, Mayor Brandon Johnson announced he would travel to the Texas border to see for himself the crisis that has brought more than 18,500 migrants here. Today, he's changed his mind. Senior advisor Jason Lee.
So what we're doing is we're sending a small delegation.
Who is this child talking to me right here? This guy, who is Jason Lee? I mean, listen, respect to Jason Lee for speaking on behalf of the mayor because he's one of his delegates, apparently. We don't want to hear from Jason. We want to hear from Brandon. We don't want to hear from Jason. We want to know why Brandon is not following through to better understand what's going on at the border so he can make adjustments instead of continuing to make concessions over in Chicago. Brandon, respectfully, we think that you're cool. You are a senior advisor. We don't necessarily want to hear from you, Brandon. You look like you just graduated from college. How you going to be an advisor? Jason. Go get Brandon. Tell him to come here. Tell him his daddy want him. We want to talk to him over here at the Millionaire Morning Show.
Delegation to begin some preliminary conversations with local stakeholders there who are responsible for transit.
A smaller Chicago delegation will go later this week to visit 4 Texas cities: El Paso, San Antonio, McAllen, and Brownsville.
Let me ask y'all a question. Who's paying for this trip? Just curious. Who's paying for the flights, the hotels, the transportation? Is this another taxpayer-funded trip, or is this coming out of y'all own pocket? Is this a taxpayer-funded trip, or is this? Because I just need to know where the money is going. Oh, we're going to get to the money in a second. This is just the initial conversation. I want to know where the money is going. Who's going to be taking you from Chicago to El Paso to San Antonio, over there to McAllen, Brownsville? I need to know who is out here sending y'all on these trips.
Alderman William Hall will join the group.
Oh, not another alderman. Didn't we learn about aldermen yesterday? When they were talking about Chicago corruption, didn't we learn about one of the 50 aldermen that then controls what it is that goes on in their city? And if you're not in good with the alderman, then you don't get any kind of help from the city. Corruption at its finest. That's what the person that described it to us yesterday. So this is one of the aldermen, and he's going to go with the delegation in order to better understand what's going on down there at the southern border, guys.
Well, I need to know where they're coming in, how they're moving to and from Chicago, who's all involved.
The delegation looks to inform the migrants and those coordinating where the migrants are sent what the weather conditions will soon be like here.
We also need to communicate accurately what's happening in Chicago. The housing situation is becoming critical. The weather is becoming colder. We need to make sure our stakeholders on the border understand that dynamic as they're advising migrants on their next options.
I think it does make sense to make sure that as the migrants are making their decisions, they understand what Chicago's going to feel like. And it's less about pushing people away.
That's Alderman Andre Vasquez in the 40th Ward. Alderman Andre Vasquez is a part of the 40th Ward, and he wants to communicate with the migrants. Listen, guys, I just want to let you know that when you come to Chicago, it is going to get colder, and I want to know how you guys are getting in and whether or not you got safe transportation back and forth to the city. On behalf of Mayor Brandon Johnson, I know that he's sending us down here in order to evaluate the situation, but I just want to make sure that I'm communicating effectively with the migrants to help them to understand that there are better options, and maybe you don't want to cross the border. I don't know.
And more about the environment they're going to be facing out here in the cold if they come.
Meanwhile, this huge vacant lot at 38th and California in Brighton Park, it is being evaluated to perhaps house 3,500 migrants in a newly built tent city. There's already work being done here to level the land.
They finding land. I didn't even know that there was available land over there in Chicago for y'all to just be building and building. I thought that the land was locked up. It's expensive. Can't find no land. Can't find no way to invest or nothing like that. How are y'all able to just do this over here in Chicago? Y'all leveling stuff, bringing out construction crews, cranes, planes, automobiles. Good grief.
Fact is that having 3-year-olds.
Oh, another alderman, Mike Rodriguez. So Mike Rodriguez, let me get that. Mike Rodriguez, alderman of the 22nd Ward, is now communicating, and I don't trust this man as far as I can throw him because he ain't even got no stash, man. I don't know if he's white. I don't know if he's black. I don't know if he's Latino. I don't know if what is a Rodriguez? Because I've seen some Rodriguez's that were black too. I don't know this man. He ain't got no stash, family. I don't trust this man. He looks concerned, and he's over the 22nd Ward, and I don't know if he's going on this trip to El Paso either.
Sleeping on the floor of police stations is unconscionable. As a city, we can't allow for that. If that means putting up tents, we've got to do that.
The city has not yet formally announced the Brighton Park location, and the alderman there promises to update the residents.
He's Spanish, Q. Okay, thanks for bringing me up to speed.
When she learns more.
So all of the aldermen are in cahoots. They all in agreement. None of them are disagreeing. None of them are fighting back. None of them are speaking on behalf of the residents in order to make sure that they communicate that this is not what the people want. All of the aldermen is saying, hey, man, we need to build more tents. We need to make sure that they heated. And more importantly, we need to allocate resources and tax money in order to do so. Y'all got to check this part out.
Well, tonight, NBC5 Investigates has uncovered more records showing just how costly the migrant crisis has been on Chicago taxpayers.
Yeah, the new records we obtained account for just a fraction of the more than $60 million that's gone to a single company. Here's NBC5's Investigates, Bennett Haberly with more.
Evrod and Regina, we've obtained 4 weeks worth of invoices for hundreds of employees working inside the city's migrant shelters. But we had to fight to get them. The city initially denied our request for the invoices that now provide new insight into where that money has flowed.
Reading Super Chat shortly.
Invoices show staffing the migrant shelters cost Chicago taxpayers more than $7.2 million during a 4-week period this
And this is when they didn't even have remotely as many migrants as they have right now. That's just for staffing for a 4-week period from April through May, and staffing to one company alone, $7.2 million in 1 month. 4 weeks, 28 days, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And that was back in April, May, before Anton started really hammering home and doing these live streams about what was going on in Chicago. We just really started getting started on Chicago. So this was before anybody was paying attention. And when they had no visibility into what was really happening, nobody was really concerned, it wasn't that big of a deal yet. Chicago, in a 4-week period, spent over $7.2 million to one company for staffing. Y'all cool with that? Are y'all no. I just want to understand, and I want to make sure that we all on the same page. Are y'all cool with that? Y'all with it? Just let me know.
Spring. So where did that money go? As we previously reported, Favorite Healthcare Staffing holds the contract to staff the migrant shelters and billed the city $20,000 for a single nurse during 1 week last December. The new invoices show despite hourly rates being...
Look at all of those lines. Look at all of those lines. Oh my gosh, I am in the wrong business. I am in the wrong business. I should be, I'm in the wrong business. I'm definitely in the wrong business.
Being reduced this spring, Favorite still billed the city for more than $16,000 for that same nurse to work 7 days in April. All told, in the 4 weeks we examined, Favorite charged more than $64,000 for the services of one nurse. He was working at this YMCA high-ridge shelter, and he wasn't alone. Our analysis of more than 400 Favorite staffing employee invoices shows even the lowest paid staff rates were $50 an hour, the most expensive $156 before overtime.
$156 an hour before you pass 40 hours. Now, when you get to 40 hours and you go above, so on that 41st hour, that's time and a half. So now you throw another $78 on top of that, if my mental math is correct. And now they making close to $230 an hour. $230 an hour when you get into overtime, and we don't even know if they're getting double time or none of that. $230 an hour when you get to overtime. And one day, that's 2 bands. One day, 2 bands. Travel nurses. Y'all tapped in with Chicago. See how y'all can get y'all money up, $156 an hour. And they working 12-hour shifts. $1,800 a day. And they got multiple different people up there. $7.2 million in 1 month.
That means in a year's time, Favorite could have potentially charged the city 6-figure salaries for employees working inside the shelters.
I told you Favorite should have been gone. They have not set the standards for what we do in our city.
The costs have led to criticism. In Alderman Jeanette Taylor's ward, staffing invoices for the shelter at the former Wadsworth School totaled $1.4 million for the 4 weeks we looked at. At the Inn of Chicago, the city's largest shelter with more than 1,500 migrants, the total was $1.6 million. At the Social Club shelter in the Loop, $1.2. The mayor's office has noted Favorite's hourly rates were inflated to cover administrative costs like hotel rooms for out-of-town employees, which is part of the reason the administration now wants to hire locally.
So they feed you, they pay for your hotel room, they bring you there, they treat you good, they'll fly you in. You might as well be a bad bee. Hey, you ain't got to wait for no rapper to fly you out. All you got to do is contact Chicago. Chicago, y'all flying them out? Get them bad nurses out there. I just want to see where the money going. Where the money going?
We've also renegotiated the emergency contract that I inherited multiple times.
Cap, let me tell you something, bro. Whenever you see people start to say something that they inherited, that means that they're trying to dodge responsibility for what is happening on their watch. They said, Anton, you better connect with the Aldermen. I'm not welcome in Chicago. Somebody told me I'm not welcome in Chicago. It's a no-fly zone. Somebody said I got to tap in with Kanye or Common. They ain't even in Chicago. Everybody that's supposed to be in Chicago ain't even in Chicago. I got to call Chief Keef. Chief Keef ain't in Chicago either. He over on the West Coast. Chief Keef ain't there. Who I got to call in Chicago in order to be able to get through without no problems? Bandman Kebo? Bandman Kebo ain't in Chicago. Bandman Kebo be down in Miami, fam. Bandman Kebo ain't even in Chicago. How come nobody from Chicago actually stay in Chicago? Where Kanye? Calabasas? He was in Wyoming. Where Common at? He over there in Hollywood and California and then in New York. Why Common always sound like his nose stopped up? Yeah. What's going on, Gway? Dirk ain't there either. Lil Dirk. Who I got to talk? Obama ain't there. Obama ain't in Chicago either. Obama said we over here having a good time. Justin Fields. Oh, I know who to call. Jussie Smollett. If I call Jussie, I need to call Jussie Smollett in order to call R. Kelly. R. Kelly ain't there no more either. Chance moved out. Chance moved out of Chicago. Chance ain't hanging out in Chicago no more. Chance don't even drop no albums no more. Let me call Jussie. I know Jussie got the pulse of the streets. Is Jussie out of jail yet?
Times. And so we're confident as we project out that we've put out an RFP to hire Chicagoans as well as Chicago businesses to be able to reduce the cost.
Aldermen we spoke to this week said they have concerns about transparency and costs, but we're encouraged to hear the Johnson administration's plan to save money by hiring local Chicago people.
For me, if you're going to spend that much tax dollar from the Chicagoan, it should go to Chicagoans. And so getting to the point where that becomes this like system of recycling those funds and helping our economy out is where we want to be.
The situation is unacceptable. These contractors that basically are imposed on us are in my opinion, unacceptable. And that's what we'll be looking into the next few weeks to modify these in the budget.
We reached out multiple times to a spokeswoman for Favorite, but we haven't heard back just yet. We've also asked the mayor's office for an interview to discuss the future plans. We're still waiting on a response.
I'm waiting on this response too. NBC5 investigates migrant crisis, man. I called the mayor's office and they said that they was gonna pass the torch over to me, and then I ain't got no response yet. I might have to make another phone call. I'm going to have to make another phone call because I can't get in touch with Common. I can't get in touch with Ye. I can't get in touch with Chief Keef. I don't know where Obama been hanging at. Where's all of the people that's supposed to be holding it down in Chicago? Hold me down. R. Kelly, he ain't got no lines in Chicago no more. Where everybody at? The only person still in Chicago is Jussie. 7.2 million in 1 week. In 4 weeks. What's going on, Chi-Town? Stand up. Chi-Town, stand up. Is Jordan hanging out there? BJ Armstrong? Scotty left. Scotty left Chicago. Steve Kerr went over to the Golden State Warriors. Who's still hanging out in Chicago? I know all of our legends over here in Detroit. They still here. Rick Mahorn, Isaiah Thomas is regularly here. Oh, Isaiah's from Chicago, ain't he? He don't even be there. He be in Detroit. With his new Sherlin champagne that we be drinking. Shout out to Twista over there. Twista, I'm going to call Twister's manager and see what's happening. I got to tap in. I'm tapped in with Twister's manager, so I'm going to call Twister's manager and see what's happening over there in Chicago. This is ridiculous.